Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donahue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy. Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donahue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. We are the podcast that talks about creeps from the past to the present. Today, we are talking about someone, and we're just going to hone in on one aspect of their creepiness. There's so much more to get to, and we'll get to him in a minute. But first, you got to listen to all this shit. Okay.
Yeah.
We also end each episode with someone who is not a creep, so you don't feel like the world is just a total dumpster fire when you're done listening. Hopefully you don't feel that way.
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, we got you. You could find us on Facebook. We do have a basic Facebook page. We're really there, and that's where people used to go to complain about our language. We have to make it very clear. We do use salty language in this program.
Yeah, fucking deal with it.
We do have a private Facebook group. You do have to answer a few questions to join the Facebook group. Please do not invite your friends to the Facebook group because they have no idea what you're asking them to. They're like, I don't know. My friend says I should like this.
Send them to the podcast first and then send them to the group.
But that's where we're the most interactive, and we talk about creeps there, past, present. We also just talk about pop culture and things like that. It's a nice safe space to hang out on Facebook. We're on Instagram at CreepPod because somebody had What a Creep on Instagram for 10 years, never used it.
Creep!
We're also on Instagram, What a Creep Podcast. Please follow us there. And we have an old-timey email. That email is whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. And that's a great place to send us your suggestions for creeps, but also non-creeps. Also, we would love to send you some stickers. If you would like some stickers, please give us your address and we will drop them in the mail for you.
Do that.
So, Sonia, do you want to talk about our website? Today, it's going to be extra, extra important because I got so many sources to link to here.
Okay. Yes. Go to whatacreeppodcast.com and it's everything you ever wanted to know about our podcast, but we're afraid to ask. There are links to all of our episodes there. And in each episode is our show notes. So you can go in there. You could do a deeper dive on any of our creeps. We link to all of our sources for everything that we do. We're not making this shit up. It is, we want to give credit to the people that do the dirty work. So do that. There's also a link to our merch shop where you could get t-shirts and tote bags and journals and face masks. Just saying, do that. I am going to be updating the website this weekend. So be on the lookout for that. And I'm going to add the link to our Substack. So you could sign up for our Substack and get our newsletter and all that stuff. There's also a link to our Patreon page. You want to tell them about that, Margot?
Yes. So Patreon, that's a place where if you want to support the show, we have a couple of very affordable options. It just helps us with the cost for all of the sources that we use.
We pay our people.
We pay for our sources like good journalists that we are. Are we journalists, Sonia? Maybe. But anyway, it does help us with the cost for the software and the hosting and stuff like that. And we also put out behind on that Patreon wall, there are our first 8 seasons. We put out a bunch recently. Yes, 8 seasons worth of shows. So if you're interested, that's a place to go. We also put out 2 bonus episodes a month. Okay. We had a couple of things happen this month, but we are we're going to figure it out.
Y'all, this is on me. Your girl had jury duty. So I threw off our routine. I apologize.
It's no big deal, but we'll figure it out. But that is, we put out 2 bonus episodes. We also have, like I said, it's a The page has all of our past episodes from the first 8 seasons. We also have a Substack, which is really fun. But if money is tight or whatever, just leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. That would be amazing. I know that we finally learned how Spotify does it, which is you have to actually, once again, listen to the show, but then you can write out like what you like or, what you like about the episode and things like that. But it all just helps us to find our people. And we're always just looking for community and like-minded people.
Yes. We're just trying to make the world a little less creepy.
Indeed. All right, Sonia, are you ready?
I think I'm ready for this fucking creep.
I'm never nervous, and I'm not nervous, but I'm cautious because I just want to make things really clear where I'm coming from and what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
This is a person who has a very illustrious past, a very notable past, some great things, some not great things. We're not talking about human weakness or addiction as a character flaw or things like that. We will mention stuff, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're just talking about, well, we'll get into it. Sonia.
Yeah.
For those of you who live outside the United States, and God, some of you are so fucking lucky. I cannot even sometimes you don't know who this is. And I'm like, God, you're so lucky. Because we're about a year and a half out from, not even that. It's like 14 months out from, I can't do math, but we're a little over a year out from our next presidential election, which means 2 years out now, they start announcing they're going to run. And it's just very tiresome.
They just never stop running, actually. It's just all the time.
All the time, especially with the political action committees, which we have talked about at length. Yes. It just seems to draw everything out. And reporters, we just are like, what do you cover? What do you not cover? We also make those kinds of decisions. But let's talk about, because he was in the news a lot, it's poor Sonia. She was out with a conference on jury duty. She didn't even know about the whole thing of Ocean Gate or whatever that was called with the sub.
Yeah,
I'm like, boy, you've got a lot to catch up on there.
I knew what was happening, but I wasn't privy to all the details of it. I was really off the grid and then came back up for air yesterday. That was not the right way to say that. Sorry, everybody. Anyway, I saw the headlines and was like, da dun 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 dun. Oh. So, yeah, there's that.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is running for president here in the U.S. and is the oldest son of the late Robert F. Kennedy, who was assassinated while running for president in 1968. His upbringing was chaotic, and he was known as a late bloomer by finding meaning as an environmental activist in the late 1980s. He had spent much of his teens and 20s having issues with drugs and alcohol. Once again, that doesn't make you a creep. This is guy. Correct. His father and his uncle were assassinated. This is a person who grew up in one of those famous families in the world, one of 10 or 11 kids. I mean, that's going to
impact you. That's going to, yeah.
Yeah, so we have compassion for that. After helping to save the Hudson River in New York, he took his Ivy League education and gross entitlement as a rich white guy from a famous family to go after vaccines and the false claims they cause autism.
We all know how I feel about this.
We should have. We should we'll say a couple of things. I mean, if it's okay, Sonia, but
yes,
we have a personal stake in this. Sonia's son is autistic, so we have a sensitivity towards how that comment how that is discussed.
Yes.
Though his position has been discredited many times over the last 20 plus years, very much so. He will not stop spreading his ill-conceived talking points and bullshit, and recently spent over 3 hours on the Joe Rogan podcast, one of the most popular in the world, if not the most popular, talking about the dangers of Wi-Fi, vaccines, and how HIV and AIDS are not related.
Okay, Grandpa.
This guy is not just a loon. He is giving shelter to COVID deniers and Q-Anon lunatics. Yeah, that's how we think of you. In case you're
Yes.
wondering, are they talking about
Yes.
me? Probably. Buckle up, everyone. The misinformation train is running off the trails.
Whoop, whoop.
Sources for this episode, of course, we always start with Wikipedia because everyone does, duh.
Yes.
Second, Trashy Divorces is a podcast that we love. We're friends with Alicia and Stacy. They've been on our show before. We're trying to put together a show with them. We're very close, and they talk about divorces, and they really go into his 3 marriages.
Ooh.
We do not. So
Good stuff.
I'm just going to glance over that. But if you're really interested in that, and they also have their sources listed on their website, so you can see for yourselves. We're not making shit up. Also, Sonia, I spent hours yesterday listening to the book RFK Jr. and the Dark Side of a Dream by Jerry Oppenheimer.
Sorry you had to do that.
Time I won't get back. And anyway, I have a link to an NBC News segment, another NBC News segment, The Hill, Rolling Stone, Forbes, Vanity Fair, 2 columns from Vice, Los Angeles Times, CNN, New York Post, Daily Mail, Time Magazine, People Magazine. There's the Twitter account I love, Patriot Takes.
Oh, yes. I know that site.
The Washington Blade, Scientific American, a YouTube channel I enjoy called Debunk the Funk with Dr. Wilson, who's rad. And there's a debate that I will put in here from Slate Magazine. And it's Joe Rogan debated a man named Phil Plait about landing on the moon. We'll get to that in a second. Fortune Magazine, The Nation, Newsweek, and Mr. Kennedy's book by his publishing company called Children's Health Defense. That's the name of his nonprofit and a publishing company. A Letter for Liberals, Censorship and COVID, An Attack on Science and American Ideals. Also, he wrote about the Wuhan cover-up and the real Anthony Fauci. Yeah.
Sounds like you did no research.
I know,
on
and
this.
I'm still going to get painted with that brush. I don't give a shit. But let me just start here. I'm opening up to y'all. I'm making myself vulnerable.
Yes.
I am also, you and I have talked about this. We're both recovering pick-me girls. We've both had times in our lives where we were like, oh, how to fit in with cool guys makes us cool chicks.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, by the way.
No.
No.
Correct.
I used to be into the Penn Jillette podcast. This was in 2007, 2008. I was freelancing, working from home for the first time. You know, my podcasts were like my friends, and I listened to him. I thought Penn and Teller were great on the show Bullshit. I know somebody worked on that show. I thought he was funny and smart. Lots of things I thought that turned out to be not that true. He also espoused libertarianism, which, by the way, he has since then has left them. He doesn't. Okay. He identified like that for years. Like that was a very strong thing for him. He liked Reason magazine. He also he had a man on his show called Phil Plait. Do you know who Phil Plait is, Sonia?
No, I don't.
Plait. He is the bad astronomer. He is a gentleman that is an expert on astronomy. He goes on all the shows and he talks about science. One of the biggest controversies, conspiracies that people have embraced during my lifetime was whether or not man landed on the moon. And
I love this conspiracy because it's so bananas to me.
And it was Joe Rogan had a debate. Let's put debate in quotation marks.
Yes.
With him. So the setting was that either he was on a phone or he was on a Zoom call or a Skype call. I don't know if they could see each other, but Joe Rogan and Penn Jillette were in one room, and then Phil Plait was in someplace else. And Penn Jillette, I don't know if you know about him, he has a very distinct laugh. It's very high-pitched and loud. He's a very tall, big guy.
Yes, he's very tall.
He's very, very tall. And it depends on what you think is funny. If you think what's funny that he thinks is funny, it's a delight. If he's just laughing for no fucking reason or a really bad joke that he came up with, you really want to punch him in the throat because it's really annoying. Joe Rogan says, I can't wait to debate this plate guy. This plate guy, by the way, who's an astronomer. Mm-hmm. He would kind of know what's going on. And Joe started off his like, okay, I want you to answer me a few different things just to start off. Why are there rocks from moon rocks? Why did they find them in other parts of the planet? He had a couple of other things. And then he said, and tell me this, why when they were leaving, when they left the moon and they came back, why were these men, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, why did they come out of their little pod thing and they all looked ashamed? Can you explain that? Now, those are all different things.
First of all, he's not a psychologist.
No.
It's not his job to understand why someone might look like they're ashamed, or
if
for
they
Joe
look
Rogan
ashamed
to
for
and exactly
project.
Like, yes. Why are really? It's Joe Rogan who's ashamed for asking that question.
No, he's not, though. He was proud of it. And he and his, I know. And this is before he became the Joe Rogan, obviously, that we know now. But
Yes.
Penn had some kind of a guy crush on him and laughed hysterically the whole time. Never stood up for his friend, never stood up for the scientist, just let Joe Rogan go on. And Joe Rogan was so enticed by his laughter that he just doubled down and tripled down. It just
Yes, of course. I'm killing it.
I'm killing it. And he's so obnoxious and so loud. There was nothing worthwhile that came from this. And that's when I learned that debating is bullshit. I hadn't suspected as much, but it's a skill. Like, first of all, people attribute that word to an action when it's usually just people screaming at each other. That's not a debate.
Yes. Yes.
It's not. I mean, and the proper debates are kind of boring. You have to sort of be on two different sides. There's a podium. There's a time limit. You have to do this and this and this.
Even our presidential debates aren't really debates anymore.
No.
It's just people yelling at each other and
Stalking the stage.
Stalking the stage, calling names. It's absolutely ridiculous. Debates aren't even it's not even a thing anymore.
It's not Lincoln Douglas that we're talking about here. That's another bit of American humor. But it just, when I was realizing, like, oh, guys just like to shout at each other. And sometimes people just like to shout into the void how they feel because it makes them feel special. I believe in a thing that you don't even know about. And you're just going to have to do so much research to catch up to me, to where I am. You ask Joe now, do you believe that man landed on the moon? He goes, oh, yeah, of course. But, you know, that was really fun to blah, blah. And, like, he tried to humiliate.
I'm just asking questions here. Just asking questions.
I say this because, like I said, his show is super popular. He gets millions from Spotify to produce this show. Spotify used to, look, Spotify has their own issues. They laid off a whole bunch of people this year. There's like 2 or 3 rounds of layoffs.
In the podcasting division.
Yes. Yeah. They fired people or just didn't use people who had very successful podcasts at other Gimlet and other networks that they absorbed into their company. Very successful podcasts that had a really smart audience that spent money like a good audience and just didn't spend a minute with them. And then they wrote checks to people, and even like Springsteen and Meghan and Harry, but all kinds of people, and said, yeah, we could make a podcast because everybody thinks it's something you could just turn around in a minute. And
you could just do it.
You could just do it. And it's like, it takes time to kind of, you and I kind of find our rhythm and like what we wanted to do and how we wanted it to go. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. Right?
Right, Max?
Did Max shout out there?
Yeah, Max is barking. He's losing his mind. Max is all, my podcast is mine. But yes, you are correct.
And they gave up on people. And so here's Joe Rogan. Like I said, he makes a lot of money for that company. So they're not going to clamp down hard on him.
No, they let him do whatever he wants.
Right. And what does he want to do? So he lives in Texas because, God forbid, you live in anywhere else, right?
That's where liberals are, in California.
Well, in Austin, there are a lot of them, but that's where he lives. He also has a comedy club that's the anti-woke comedy club.
So ridiculous.
I mean, it's like, do they play like old Don Rickles routines? Like, what is going on in that place?
I don't know.
Don't tell me. I don't really give a fuck.
Yeah, I don't want to know.
And he has producers with him, and their whole thing is that they check things in real time. So somebody says a thing, and he'll say, "Why don't we check on that?" So one of the producers goes to the Google machine, and they type in, and they'll say, "Yep, that's true," or "Nope, that's false," or that's how things are decided. And so RFK announced this year he's running on the Democratic Party. Joe Biden is our president right now. When there is an incumbent president in the Democratic Party, there's not normally a debate. There's not normally anything like that. He's just automatically, unless he says he doesn't want to. Like, I think LBJ didn't want to, right? So then that's why RFK was running and a bunch of other people.
And people, and people can run. Like, if you want to run, you're going to run or whatever. But
that's always been a thing.
Like Bernie will probably run. Bernie Sanders. Like he always runs.
Joel Stein. We have Cornel West. We have a lot of people. Marianne Williamson. I used to work on a Marianne Williamson book like 20 years ago. I'm like, that wacko wants to be. Why? She made so much money. But I don't know if it's the money. I don't know if it's a power trip. I think once Trump did get elected, and who's somebody who never served in office before, people are like, well, then I guess anybody can serve, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you don't have to show any
acumen,
any thought into public service at all. It's just I think I'm super smart and I should be president.
I have good ideas. I should be president. I'm telling you now, I shouldn't be president. I don't have the temperament for it. I am honest about my shortcomings. I respect my shortcomings enough to know.
I don't want someone like me to be president. I want someone smarter than me to be president.
Yeah. Someone who's like just has thick skin that can handle like multiple problems at once. That has a motivated staff to do the jobs they need to do because it takes a staff of people to get shit done. That's what I want. And
what sucks about? Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say someone like Robert Kennedy running, what bums me out is that's going to dictate the discussion, the topics that people talk about. And it's like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Like this has been decided,
right?
That vaccines are effective. They are a thing that work. We should be getting them. Like, this is why we can't have nice things in America. We are still like arguing about abortion for women and vaccines. And I hate that he's going to run, and that's going to be the news cycle.
Because let me just give you a brief background on Mr. Kennedy. So he was born January 7th, 1954, Washington, D.C. The Kennedy family, Google them if you don't know what we're talking about. That's a whole other, that could be a whole other, by the way, season of What a Creep.
Yeah, dude,
for sure.
Yeah, Ted Kennedy's on the list.
Michael Kennedy, like his brother that was sleeping with the babysitter and lied about it and all that crap, who hit a tree when he was skiing. Oops.
Yes.
His father is killed in 1968. And I'm not, like I said, that's horrifying. And his father was beloved. And I've heard from my parents is that when RFK was assassinated, and I believe it was around the same time that Martin Luther King was, like everything went into chaos in America. And people went super right-wing, Republican. We went safe because we're like, we can't have people that are sticking their necks out.
Well, how bananas would it be if we're talking about assassinations here. Like, these were people who were doing like public, like speaking things and then murdered. If that was happening now, like that,
right?
That's fucking scary, man.
Well,
it's really fucking scary.
This is the thing that I want to keep him in mind, because his father's ideas were part of the reason that he was so dangerous. His father went from, being in the McCarthy hearings to, within a few years, going after the mafia, and then made poverty a big deal and the Vietnam War. And those were threatening to people. And that's what his brother got killed. So, so why would I stick my neck out? And Martin Luther King was a clergyman. I mean, he just, like, it's unreal. So,
and Malcolm X, all of that. Around.
So in 68, and then there was the Democratic Convention. That was a whole chaotic event. Like, there's a lot that's going on. He's dealing with his father was murdered, and he's being raised by his mother, who she seems like a big piece of work. I mean, Ethel Kennedy had a lot to deal with. The Kennedy men are known for being great public speakers, having charisma, having good looks. I would say RFK was handsome, but they are philanderers.
Yes.
Going back to their father, their grandfather, whatever, Joe Kennedy, was somebody who was a bootlegger and had made his money off of very nefarious ways. Also was a total, like, fucking Gloria Swanson, like, pretty much out in the open. So they're known for having their habits and that sort of stuff going for them.
Yes.
So he's being raised in the 70s by his mother, and he's an out-of-control kid. And it's an out-of-control house. The mother kind of, like, goes and does speeches because she's probably in shock and just trying to...
Yeah.
And she was raised in a very wealthy environment. So the kids are being raised by nannies and helpers and things like that. He had admitted, like, he had major drug problems. And I mean heroin and shooting up. And he talked about this. Yeah. I just saw a tweet today, Billy Baldwin, who is married to China Phillips, who's the daughter of John Phillips, who was in The Mamas and the Papas, and we did an episode on him, which is one of the most terrifying things we've ever covered.
So horrifying.
Yes. He says that RFK used to brag to him that John Phillips gave him Hep C because they shared a needle. And then but then he would go on and say, I shot up with everybody up in Harlem, the junkies and the this and the, and he's like, well,
my God.
Right. This is the person we're talking about.
Yes.
He gets fanciful with his details. Okay. Let's say that. Maybe I'm being generous. Yes. Let me just read his bona fides. I went to public school and I went to state college. Okay. Those are mine.
Yeah.
He went to Harvard for his BA, London School of Economics, which is one of the top universities you could go to in the world, University of Virginia for his JD, and he went to Pace University. He's an environmental lawyer. He found his purpose saving the Hudson River. So he's from the East Coast, and he noticed all this pollution that happened, and he's like, how do we protect our waterways? And that became his passion project. And that was great. And people admired him. And he was on all the top green lists for years and years and years. And somewhere around there, he thought, damn, it's a shame I never ran for anything, because I really would have loved public service, because that's what I should have been doing, because he is feted everywhere around the world. And this kind of goes to his head, I would think. But it's somewhere around 2000. He gets obsessed with chemicals, right?
Okay.
Chemicals are bad. Chemicals are good. Chemicals are part of our lives. You know, you could say things like, oh, I'm eating this because it's all natural. Like, well, botulism is natural. It's just not good for you. He says things like, some of these vaccines have mercury. It's like, yeah, some mercury's bad and some mercury's fine. It's like the amount you have in sushi, basically. I had one friend who had mercury sickness, but she literally ate sushi every single day for years.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So, yeah, but it's also a preservative, and it can help keep a medicine. And, these medicines have all kinds of ingredients that are meant to get shot in your arm, last for a really long time, and not cure diseases. They are to stop the spread, hopefully stop infections, or if you get something it's bad. Right? That's the whole reason you get a flu shot. Because if you've ever had the flu, it fucking sucks. It's not a cold.
Yes.
There are two different things.
There's the whole thing about, like, people get the COVID vaccine and then they get COVID and they're like, fuck these vaccines. I got COVID. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't die.
Right.
I got COVID last year around Thanksgiving. It it wasn't as bad as it could. Like, I was sick for 4 days.
Yeah. Because
You know,
you've been boosted, what, 3 times? Or
Yeah, I'm vaccinated as fuck. Like,
Same.
I'm as vaccinated as I can be.
shingles,
Like,
flu shots.
I will take all the vaccines. I didn't get as sick as people
Right.
I know who got COVID, say, before the vaccines were even available or any of those things, because I was vaccinated. And it's still like, I was sick for 4 days and it kind of kicked my butt, but it could have been so much worse. I'm not on a ventilator. I didn't have to go to the hospital.
Right.
Like, that's what vaccines do for you. Like,
Yes. Let me give you just a brief timeline of vaccines, if you don't mind, Sonia.
yes. No, I love to hear it.
The very first one, do you know when that was?
Nope.
The year was 1796. Edward Jenner, he created a vaccine for smallpox. Turns out if you give people cowpox shot, they don't get the smallpox. If you don't get the smallpox, you don't die from smallpox, and your children don't get it. Smallpox, which also doesn't just give you spots, it can make you deaf, it can make you blind, it can make all kinds of shit. Same with measles. All right. Ugh. First vaccine for cholera, Louis Pasteur, was in 1880. There was the rabies vaccine in 1885. Tetanus was 1890. I've had like a million tetanus shots in my life. Typhoid fever, which killed people, 1896. Bubonic plague. We don't have that because of vaccines. Tuberculosis.
Yay!
Right. Here we go into the 20th century. Diphtheria, scarlet fever, yellow fever, tick bone encephalitis. Encephalitis is fucked up, y'all. You do not want that to happen to you.
No.
52, Salk vaccine for polio, the thing he never made a dime off of.
Yes.
By the way,
My dad remembers being lined up at school and getting the polio
Yes.
vaccine. Because that's how, like, it was a thing. There was no, you're not going to get the polio vaccine. They gave it away at school.
they gave it away. And the thing is, and let me just a few more. The measles, once again, was 63. There was an oral vaccine for polio because there used to be what's called a vaccination scar. You would see it on some older people on their arm, on their shoulder, their deltoid, excuse me. Just a few more: rubella, mumps, meningitis, pneumonia, hepatitis B, chickenpox, Lyme disease. I mean, malaria.
You know what our vaccine for chickenpox was?
What? Going to the other kid's
You
house.
get that you go get chickenpox.
People, sure. Some people just get chicken pox. Some
Yeah.
people, like Seal, get their faces marked up for it for the rest of their lives. Like I said, some kids get really fucking sick. Even if you
Yes.
don't, even if it's just that, you still have to go to the hospital. You still have to go to the doctor. That's still going to
Yeah.
cost money. It's time you can't work. It's time kids can't go to
Yes.
school. This is like, it's better to not have it
Yes.
than to have it.
Yes.
Malaria, dengue fever. I don't know what that is. The one cause for hand, foot, mouth disease. Goodness gracious me. So shingles, which is something like, yes, if you're 50 or over, get that
Shingles?
shit. Because I know people who've had shingles and it sucks.
My dad had shingles. That shit fucks you up.
It does.
It fucks you up. He has neuropathy. Like, it's a huge side of it. Feeling in your legs and your hand. You don't want it, folks.
You do
Get the
not want
vaccine.
it. Get the vaccine. Exactly. And get a colonoscopy like as soon as you can because those rates are going up. We don't know what that's. Okay. Anyway, in 2020, we had the COVID, Ebola, sorry, then it was COVID. And then there's a respiratory one that came after that. So that's been going on, so like I said, since 1794. JFK, he's really into the River Keepers. That was the name of his organization. I knew people who went to like River Keepers events and he had the chicks around him like nobody's business. He's got a lot of game. And he's a guy that struggles with lustful thoughts. He also had a diary that some got their fucking hands on and would rate the women that he had sex with. That's Trashy Divorces, by the way. You could go to there or the Oppenheimer book I met before. But in 2005, he wrote a thing. He started the Children's Health Defense. And that sounds awesome. the Children's Health
Right?
Defense.
Such an innocent name.
Look out for names of things, people, and what they're really about. He started it as anti-vaccination. He looked at all these chemicals and thought, well, if it's bad here, why would it be okay there? Legitimate. But then you ask people that are really smart and know what they're doing and then go, oh, okay. He also, first he starts, he doesn't think there's a correlation between HIV and AIDS. And AZT was a drug that was given. Y'all that don't know, we're your elders here if you can't tell. We're not exactly millennials or something. In the 80s, AIDS took over entire generation of people. And you didn't realize how many gay people existed in the world until there was AIDS. But it wasn't just gay people. It was people who had used drugs, and also just blood transfusions. You could go to a hospital, have blood transfusion, and get AIDS. It was terrifying. First of all, just how quickly people went. Yes. Right? It was like within a year you could be gone. And it ravaged their bodies. It ruined people's lives. I mean, obviously. And there are people who died alone because their families wouldn't visit them because of the homophobia. You and I, we're coastal elites. We're around this stuff.
It decimated San Francisco. Like,
and New York,
it's a huge fucking deal here. And I'll tell you that cloud still hangs over San Francisco, because I'll tell you, everyone in San Francisco got the fucking COVID vaccine. It's almost like everyone in the Bay Area knows how to deal with a pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, it is bananas.
People didn't know how it was transmitted. So
for the longest time, it was so scary.
It was terrifying. And one of the things he says on the Joe Rogan podcast, which was on a few weeks ago, is like, but he said this in a few places. Patriot Takes has a really good clip of it. Like I said, follow them on Twitter because they have these clips of this guy. He's at one event and he's like, I know he has a voice thing, by the way. He has he has an issue that makes his speaking voice sound the way it does. It's kind of a croak.
Oh.
It's kind of a, if you ever listen to him talk, when you hear him talk, you're kind of like, oh, is he sick? Does he have a cold? Like, maybe you should rest that.
Like, he sounds like hoarse.
Hoarse. Thank you. That's a better way of putting it. He just has a thing, and it's not, it doesn't make his mind work less. He has the same kind of energy he always had. It's just, that's where it affects him. And I'm not going to make fun of his voice, and I'm not going to, because that's ableism, and we don't do that shit.
No.
If he could sound different, I'm sure he wishes he could. But anyway, he says, back then, gay people were just having sex everywhere, and they were doing poppers. And poppers they used to sell like candy everywhere. And I think that's really, people, they never really investigated that. I'm like, poppers caused AIDS?
That's weird. I thought God and rock music.
I thought that was too, and also our policies.
I thought it was sin.
Yeah, it was sin.
I thought it was sin.
He also says, AZT, that was the first medicine they came up with. It actually killed people because it attacked them. And I'm like, have you ever heard of chemotherapy? Like, yes.
Yeah, my dude.
I mean, yes, that is how you attack a disease.
Trust me, dude, we would love an alternative to chemotherapy. Like,
yes. Sonia's also been through cancer twice.
Yes. Sometimes the medicine is
just as harsh as the disease, but it's just a little.
Yes, that's
but it's
what I'm
getting rid of that disease. So you have to just decide how much are you going to do. Some people don't.
You have to weigh it.
Right.
Yes, exactly. And if you're so a lot of older people who get cancer, they don't even do chemotherapy because it's like, it's not worth it. It's going to destroy your body to a point where you can't live like a good quality life. And so it is like, you have to weigh the costs of what you're going to do. It's awful. And this was the same thing. It was the same thing.
Yeah.
It does.
It does. I mean, that's just how you fight a disease. You put everybody, and this is another thing. If you've looked at, like I said, this is going back to the 1790s. Like, we were constantly trying to find ways to stem disease. Sure, we'd love a cure for cancer. Everyone's dreaming about that. When there's a vaccine for it, I'll be the first in line. I'll be a tester. I don't give a shit. Like, what is disease, illness, these things can really destroy your life, your family's lives. It interrupts your life for sure for a while. And so these things are serious. So we do. That's why there's so many people working on it all the time, trying to figure out ways to do it. Do you get chemotherapy, or what's the other thing you can do? Radiation, right?
Yes.
Or some people, like I said, like my mother was just too old. She couldn't, it just wouldn't have done her any good. It just would have. But so anyway, everyone has their story. But this is like, it's not like the chemotherapy industry is like, woo, let's give it to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that. And sometimes I wonder if we weren't spending so much energy fighting about the same stupid bullshit, could we focus our energy, our time on other things? I'm like, could we not fight about vaccines and instead focus our energy, time, and resources, money into things for cancer or preventing these things? But instead we're still fighting about shit that is like settled. That's why I hate people like Robert Kennedy.
He has access to all the information and he's not stupid. He's a smart person. He has access, as Trump would say, to the best people. Speaking of Trump, he's posed with Trump many times. He's supported by Steve Bannon, I'm not sure he's supposed to be in jail, isn't he? Like, he's been convicted.
Yeah. How is this person running as a Democrat? I don't know.
He's meant to be a disruptor. That's what I'm convinced. Like, they're just trying. Yes, he's a chaos agent.
Yes.
Anyway, that's one of the things he said. In the past, he said that on Joe Rogan's show recently. Going back to 2005, he wrote an article for. Oh, this is making me so mad, but it's for Rolling Stone and Salon. And it was called Deadly Immunity, and it alleged a government conspiracy to conceal a connection between thimerosal and childhood neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism. And the things are, why are there so many people being diagnosed with autism now? Because the diagnostic
we know what we're looking for.
Right. And it's a spectrum. And let me just, not to blow your minds too much, y'all, but, fuck Jenny McCarthy, by the way, for her complete demonization of autistic people.
Yes. We did an episode on like Oprah endorsed creeps, basically. And we talked about Jenny McCarthy because what she has done is made it, she took something and like made it popular with like rich white women, basically. Right. And all of a sudden these women were like, it's not natural to vaccinate your kids. And then that's how we're getting like kids that get the measles again. Fucking Google that shit. You don't want your kids to have measles. And the idea that you would rather risk your child getting measles and dying than them getting autism is very fucked up. And also your child will not get autism from vaccines.
No.
So you're putting your child at risk for no reason. I don't even have words because it makes me so angry.
Look, we all exist on this planet for a reason, and we all have different ways of thinking, talking, laughing, putting stuff together. We all, and everybody's a part of the process. And autistic people are amazing and have a lot to offer the world. Their point of view.
They just think differently.
That's all.
And again, it's a spectrum. There are like autistic people that are nonverbal that's a thing. And like, but it's also like they think differently. They communicate differently. That's okay.
It's fine.
We all do. Like, it's just about, like, can we just fucking learn some shit?
Right.
Like, can we just learn and, like, be good humans and learn how to accept people and learn how to communicate with each other? And instead, it's this, like, let's demonize people with this kind of rhetoric. It's so, so shitty. What a shitty way to live.
It's also it's an awful way to live. And he's just he basically Salon made a bunch of corrections, and then they finally just took the piece away because they were contacted by scientists. And he gave the keynote address at Autism One, which was a generation rescue event, which is all about how autism is caused by vaccines. He takes information and then he bleeds it together to fit his point of view. You just type in, once again, go to Twitter, anywhere, RFK and Wi-Fi cell phones. And by the way, he's a lawyer, and he's doing a lot of suing on children's health defense on behalf of them on a lot of things. Mm-hmm. He's one of those people that's like, and I remember this when cell phones came out, like, that's going to give you cancer. And I'm just like, oh, poo. And no, it doesn't. It's such the radiation or whatever the waves are from a cell phone are so moderate and so benign. Like, it's not like getting an X-ray or something where they have to leave the room. It's nothing like that. But he's saying, oh, all these people, they're all getting, cancer. And then he says this, the thing with the Wi-Fi and the 5G is it opens your blood-brain barriers and causes all kind of issues. That's a total made-up thing. It's so that's what he says.
By the way, he probably has a cell phone with 5G.
Of course he does. Of course he does. We all do. This is how we communicate with each other. And if people were going to die from it, they would have been all gone by now.
The phones will give you cancer, he says, as he drinks his 15th Diet Coke of the day.
I mean, this guy should be grateful he's above ground for all the drugs he did and all that he did to himself, and leave the thinking stuff to everybody else.
Leave the thinking to someone else, please.
Please. He also just really thinks that COVID was a government plot. Trump was in power then. Let's just remember that.
Yeah.
Who can't, I mean.
Seriously, y'all, Trump has made it very clear he can't keep secrets.
No.
Like, he literally takes documents and keeps them in his fucking bathroom. He just tweets out fucking top secret shit all the time when he was president. If COVID was a government conspiracy, first of all, I guess it's worldwide government conspiracy because the whole world. First, and also Trump could not keep that secret because he's a dum-dum. And also, if the moon landing was fake, Trump would know that as president probably and told everybody too.
I'll say this. I should have said this at the top of the show, Sonia, and you're reminding me that the reason I've learned to not trust these conspiracy theories is because if I know anything as a human, nobody can keep a secret. There's no one. You're going to tell somebody. Information is currency.
Yes.
When you know something that somebody doesn't know, it's delicious and you just want to blab. I mean, people
yum 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 yum. Eat it up.
Yes. People blab. You cannot put the thousands of people who worked at NASA over the last 50 plus years, 70 years, excuse me, and they're all in on it all around the world. The Russians would have been on it. I mean, I'm defending this shit. Look, people have been having vaccinations now for centuries. We're going on centuries now. You've got to calm the fuck down. So he believes that was some, he also believes that the Chinese are creating a specific bioweapon that's just going to go against different racial types, he says. So what?
Sure,
Jim. He also says that when the COVID vaccine was released, he said they didn't do any testing. It was a long time before COVID started until we finally had a vaccine. We all lived through it. All of us that are listening. Yeah. We were all there. The days felt like years, right? It was not overnight. And that's because they've been working on this shit for many, many years. I mean, everyone was hyper-focused, Johnson & Johnson and all these other companies. Sure. You know, everyone wanted to create a vaccine because they want things to get going again. People go back to work and go to the movies and shit like that. So there's a reason to make it, but there also is a reason to make it effective and safe. So he says, and he doesn't back up anything. He just speaks with this casual, he says things like, you know, the CIA killed my uncle, JFK, and I know that, and I know they're probably going to come and kill me, but I'm prepared. I'm taking precautions. I'm like, what? What does that mean? You're going out to parties in Hollywood all the time. Like, what are you talking about?
I've taken precautions. I have a bulletproof head.
Like,
no, you don't, dude. You don't.
Exactly. Yeah, he doesn't. I mean, so he says that if you take the vaccine, you're 21% more likely to get COVID. And I'm like, that's a hell of a statistic. And all these people died from it. He's just conflating all different kinds of information. And there's people that just want to be against it because some people just really don't like to be told what to do. It really just chaps their ass. They can't handle it. They just dig their heels in, and that's who he's appealing to. That's just a part of he also says that that Switzerland has the same gun laws that we have, but he blames chemicals and antidepressants for the shooting issue we have in America. Okay. Prozac that's available worldwide. Like all these drugs are available worldwide.
Yes.
And almost everybody I know is on one or has been on one.
Yeah.
None of them have shot anybody. But he blames that. He says a lot of the chemicals could be the cause of all this gender dysmorphia and people saying that they're transgender.
That must be it.
He's so fucking stupid. He also aligns himself with just really crazy people. He is speaking soon with Moms for Liberty. Moms of Liberty or for Liberty?
Oh, our favorite.
Yes. And
I think it's Moms for Liberty. We did an episode on them
just recently.
Yeah, they're garbage.
They're absolute fucking garbage. They're right-wing Nazis that are going after schools. They're going after kids that are gay. They're banning books. They're a fucking nightmare. He's speaking at one of their events. And at the Indiana chapter recently, they had an event and they actually posted a quote on their pamphlet and on their site, a quote from Hitler.
Awesome. See, people aren't even pretending anymore.
No. So there was an event. There was a school event in Indiana and a person there stood up and said, I think it's disgusting you did that. And we should take a moment of silence to think about the Holocaust victims. And several members of Moms for Liberty, whatever, started coughing when they were supposed to take a moment for silence.
No, they don't care.
They don't give a shit.
They're only about white supremacy, for one. And there's also part of this is they don't want public education anymore.
No.
They're trying. They want it to be like Christian schools. They don't want public education anymore. There's a whole thing about that. Like they're garbage people. They're garbage.
Also on his show, so he did it's 3 hours of this. And Joe Rogan does this whole like, I didn't know that. Oh my God.
I'm just asking questions.
Yeah. So
Joe Rogan.
One of his guests on his show who routinely appears on his show is a man named Peter Hotez. He's a doctor, Yale, Weill Cornell Medical, Rockefeller University. He's in vaccinology, neglected tropical disease control, public health, global policy. He's a pediatrician. He is for the Children's Hospital. He's the director of the Texas Children's Hospital Center for Vaccine Development. And he's been on his show. He's been around the world helping kids trying to get kids vaccinated so they don't get fucking sick and die.
Right.
Not poisoning them. We're trying
Correct.
to save them. He says, he tweets to Joe and says, this is really irresponsible. And Joe gets so mad that he says,
How dare you?
How dare you? How dare you? Says, you should come to my show and you debate him. And if you do that, I'll donate $100,000 to your charity.
Like nothing to Joe Rogan, by the way.
That's just absolutely nothing to him. But also, you can't debate in this environment. There's, you know what I mean? You can.
It's rigged against you.
It's completely rigged against you. And not everybody can debate. And this guy's too busy saving people. So he says, he's like, nah. So somebody showed up at his home and filmed him and said, hey, how come you don't go on Joe's podcast? At his home.
Inappropriate. Like, first of all,
That's
he's
stalking.
a doctor.
Yeah.
That's stalking. He's a doctor. He has a medical degree and he's trying to help people. It is not his fucking job to go debate Joe Rogan. Not everybody is a public speaker.
No.
Either. Like, that require a lot of people who do this stuff, they have public speaking like training that they do. Like, maybe he doesn't have that. Also, not his job.
That's not his job.
But so Joe Rogan decided he should debate him, so therefore it must happen?
Yes. And
Fuck
so
that.
Elon Musk tagged him on that tweet and said, oh, because he'd just be lying, basically saying like, oh, that's because he's lying. So this man's being harassed at his home.
Poor man.
Yeah. And he's just, like I said, he's an actual doctor. He's actually trying to help kids. And this is something the guy yells out at him. Well, what about my vaccine injury? Now, what also Robert Kennedy makes clear when he's talking to Joe Rogan is you are not allowed to sue the companies for a bad vaccine. He is suing companies for vaccine stuff. He's doing that.
But he just said you're not allowed to.
Right.
Weird.
So if that's your thing, if that's your issue, if you're serious, you know what I say? Fucking sue him. Get a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Get them all together. Get a big fat lawsuit.
Yeah.
Show them
File
where you're
your
injured.
shit. Let's see it.
Let's see it. Follow your shit. Take it to court. See what happens. Get your time to state all of your injuries. Why don't you do that? Right?
No, he would rather do it in the court of public opinion.
Right. Anyway, he's running for president. He also, by the way, he has a super PAC, and it has deep ties to MAGA figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene. We just found this out today. He's with a lot of Trump candidates. They like him because he's Herschel Walker. He supported his campaign. Marjorie Taylor Greene's campaign. There's Steve Bannon is encouraging him to run, like I said before.
Yes, of course they are.
Energize anti-vaxxers who make up much of the Trump space, according to CBS News.
What they're trying to do is lure away Democrat voters from Joe Biden,
right,
to him, so that there's less people voting for Biden, so that somebody like Trump can win president. That's what they're. It sucks
because Trump's under indictment. Trump is giving interviews where, like you said, he's just basically saying, yeah, I did it, but what's so bad about it? Like, he doesn't.
Yeah, who cares?
Who cares? Yeah. It's okay if the president does it, which is the old, Richard Nixon technique. It's not illegal when the president does it.
Well, no, it's only okay if Trump does it.
Right.
Everyone on that who's still supporting him is like, it's okay because it's my guy.
Right.
Who did it. That's it. There is no shit. There's still this thing on the left side, on the liberal side, where it's like they're trying to shame people or use logic. And I'm like, this shit doesn't matter anymore. They don't care.
No, they don't care.
First of all, you can't shame people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Lauren Boeberts, the Matt Gaetz.
They don't have any
the
shame.
Robert Kennedy, they don't care. You cannot shame them. You cannot use facts or logic with them, or say like, it's fine if it's their guy. It's fine if it's their guy. Too bad.
This is from Time Magazine. These debates give the false impression that there are two equivalent sides and therefore can cause real public health damage. There are not two equivalent sides here.
Yes.
We have
correct
decades upon decades of research, all kinds of research, and then he'll come back with like, oh, there's dozens of studies that say, and doesn't quote them. I mean, he's completely full of crap. He has caused. I'll give you this example. In 1903, in Minnesota, there was a smallpox vaccination scare, basically, that people are saying, oh, it's going to do more harm than good. And this is in 1902. The local anti-vaccination league overturned a law requiring children to get the vaccine. 2 decades later, they experienced the deadliest ever epidemic with 500 deaths. Like within those kids' lifetimes, there were 500 deaths. So they repealed the anti-vaccination law, but it took a long time because it takes a long time for the news to get out. Right. And we should also say, yes, sure, some people are going to be injured by it. Some people they're not going to have a great reaction to it. But when you have to understand, especially when you're first collecting data, if you already have a condition but they didn't know it and you get the vaccine, it's easy to then blame the vaccine for you getting it. But if you get the vaccine and then you're exposed to it like an hour later, it might not work. Or if you get the vaccine and you walk outside and you get hit by a bus, like they have to say, like, well, he got his vaccine shot and then he got hit by a bus.
Right.
Like maybe, it's like everything has to be taken into account.
Yes.
Before, so repealing the vaccination laws have been known to cost lives. So what the fuck are we doing?
Yes.
But as I said, I don't really think that debating them is the answer. It just debases everybody. I think that was the whole point of the Chocolate War, if you ever read that book when we were kids. Did you ever read that book?
No, I did not.
It's about this private school, and there's this poor kid who goes to the school, and there's this rich kid consortium, like a group, and they're always picking on him. And the kids have to sell a certain number of boxes of chocolate in order. It's a Catholic school. In order for the priest that's in charge, he gives them all like a number. Like, you all have to sell this many. So then we have money, blah, blah, blah. And the priest, by the way, is taking the money. Like, they find out. Anyway.
Okay.
The protagonist says, you know what? I'm not going to sell the chocolates. And that becomes his whole thing. Like, I'm just going to be the one that doesn't do it. In the end, it's a little nuts, but they have a big boxing ring in the school on like the football league. And he winds up beating the shit out of the guy, but he still was the asshole. And he still didn't win anything. He just became just as bad as they were by being like going down to their level. That was the whole point. That he just, the last side of the movie that's really good, that's based on it, is I should have just sold the chocolate. Like, it just wasn't, you weren't making the point you think you're making.
Right.
And so that's RFK Jr. He is spewing a lot of bullshit. He's conflating things. He's just making shit up as he goes along. Don't fall for it.
It's about power.
It's about power. It's he was railing against all the COVID stuff, and his wife Cheryl Hines, thank you.
Yeah.
They had a party, and she required everybody to come in with a COVID test, because she thinks he's an idiot. Like, when it comes to, maybe they love each other, maybe they really, But anyway, that's my long story, everybody, and I really hope I never have to talk about this person again.
Yeah, Margot, good job. Thank you. So much research on this, and he's such a garbage person.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get into our non-creep, because you talked about like how debating is not helpful. And that's kind of why I picked the person I picked. So I picked this woman. Her name is Heidi Larson, and she's an American anthropologist, and she used to head the global. She used to work as at UNICEF as like their global like vaccine communications person. And she is the author of a book called Stuck: How Vaccine Rumors Start and Why They Don't Go Away. And she has this idea that like instead of trying to like debunk vaccine misinformation like on a case by case basis, we need to be talking about it as the bigger problem. So it's like she says it like this: tackling the misperceptions individually is like eliminating a single microbial strain. When one germ is gone, another will bloom. Instead, we have to take on the entire ecosystem and rehabilitate it. So she established something called the Vaccine Confidence Project. And she did this in 2010. So it's like even pre like COVID, everything. And it's about trying to understand the growing vaccine skepticism, but around the world. This isn't just like the rich white ladies in Marin County in California or something.
Right, in
She's
Hollywood.
trying to understand it, everywhere. And so this whole group, they study vaccine rumors. They study like how they start, why some take off and other ones don't. And it's the first group that like monitors and researches and maps like public confidence in vaccines all over the world. And it's the only group that is like fully dedicated to this and is also tracking like the impact of vaccine confidence. So, you know, now because of social media, more people like they take stuff from Facebook and then they pair it with their own personal experiences, and they tend to trust that more than like science, than data-driven facts and numbers and things like that. Well, it's just like, well, I read this thing on Facebook and that kind of jives with like my personal feeling about blah, blah, blah. And then they don't care about your facts anymore. And so what she's trying to do is she wants there to be like less arguing with individuals on Facebook and more talking to people in real life, answering their questions and like addressing their concerns with facts, but in like a human way. So like I read the story in the New Yorker about how she went to Nigeria and she was speaking to like a group of mothers there about the polio vaccine, because there was like a whole thing where like this community was not getting the polio vaccine.
Polio.
And what did I say?
Polo, like they're going to go out with horses and mallets.
It's because people are allergic to that cologne. No, sorry, everybody.
It's a really gross cologne, by the way.
It's so gross. No, so she's talking to these mothers, and it turns out that like they have these concerns because Pfizer had done at some point a clinical trial for like a meningitis drug there, like 8 years earlier. And like 11 kids actually died.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so they were like, is that this? Is that what you're doing? And that she's like, trying to, she's very calm. Like, no, this is not a trial for a drug. This is a vaccine. This has already been tested. We're not testing this on you. And then they just started talking about these rumors like, hey, like we heard that like America's war on terror, that you're trying to sterilize Muslim children, or you're trying to give us HIV, and she's like, that's, and she's just very calm. Like, that's not what's happening here. This is already a vaccine that's been tested, and she just informs them. She's not reacting to them like in an emotional way. She's not arguing. She's not debating. She's just talking to them. And she is trying to understand their rumor. And then she wants to create trust with them. And eventually, like, all those people got vaccinated, like in that community. She's like, it took 11 months. but they got everyone vaccinated because they put in the time to like understand why they were asking the question, like why they were thinking the way they were thinking and how they could restore that trust. And she like worked with community health workers, and they went door to door, village to village, and they talked to people. And she also, like this project, they also have like, they hire like local listeners who go and they just listen to what people are saying. And then they take that back and they try to figure out like, how can we address those rumors in a way that will work for these people? And I thought this was so fascinating because I am someone who works in content design, and I'm constantly thinking about the customer's experience in the product I work in. And she's thinking about it like that, like how can I convince people to get vaccinated? It's not just, well, here's all the facts and you're an idiot. You know, she's
right.
You know,
fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, she is, which by the way, she's a better person than me, because my reaction is fuck you, is anger, get vaccinated, what the hell's wrong? And she's like, she knows that that's not going to solve anything.
Right.
Like, she's like, people just want to be heard, you know, and instead of reacting to them with anger, she's reacting to them with empathy. And that's like so noble.
Right. That is.
Like, and I so appreciate that about her. And like she told this example of how there's these rumors going around that the flu vaccine will make you more vulnerable to COVID-19. And instead of, you know, she's like, okay, well then our motto of get your flu vaccine isn't going to work for people. So they change stuff to say the flu vaccine does not put you at greater risk for COVID-19. It's like, that's all you had to do was just tell people, you know, it's like, get your vaccine, dummy, isn't going to work, as opposed to you're not exposing yourself to a greater risk by getting this vaccine. And they're like, oh, okay. It's like the people who say, well, I can't get the flu vaccine because it'll give me the flu.
I hear that all the time.
You know, it's like, yes, like nobody backs it up. Like they don't back it up with a fact. It's just like this feeling they have, or they know a guy who one time got the flu, you know. So she tries to address these like a human being. And she said, you have to start a conversation. You find a way to talk to people who don't necessarily share all your beliefs, and you look for an entry point.
That's true.
She's really, really smart. And so again, the group is called the Vaccine Confidence Project. And she's talking about how they might start expanding this to more of just a like confidence project, as she's like, we need to talk about climate change. We need to talk about like civil rights, human rights. We need to talk about democracy. She's like, you know, and she's like, trust is the only currency we have. And she's like, I think we need to expand the goal, and we have to understand like how trust gets eroded and how we can rebuild it. And I think she's playing the long game. Yeah. And I think that's super rad. Like, again, I want to get in people's faces and be like, you get that COVID vaccine right now. But like, that's not what she's doing. And I appreciate that. So I picked Heidi Larson as our non-creep.
That's amazing. I was at a dinner, not a dinner party, not like, ooh, they fancy. But,
ooh, I put on my monocle and I went to this dinner party.
Put on my fur wrap and I went to a dinner party with my pearls. No, and I was talking to somebody there, and his mother and his aunt who were visiting. I think it was Easter. Like came over for Easter.
Yeah.
And they're hardcore Trumpers from Queens, Asian Americans. And they were like completely against the vaccine. We were all trying to talk to them, and they were just like, no. And they're older. And,
yeah,
you know, it's some people you just can't.
You can't.
And it's really hard.
It is really
you
hard.
want them to do it because it's good for them, but
exactly. And like, it is super hard. And bless this woman, bless her heart.
Bless her heart. Yeah.
You know, but I love that she's not thinking about it in just terms of like Americans. Like, we're talking about global pandemics. She's thinking outside of our country, I mean, and you know, it sounds like, judging by this, you know, smallish community that she did in Nigeria, that this sort of thing can work if you can dedicate the time
and the
the brain power and the resources to figuring out how to build that trust. And I don't know, how do you build that trust how do you build it with somebody at a dinner party? Like,
right.
You can't. And I'm like, that's why I'm glad that something like this group, this like vaccine confidence project exists. I'm like, maybe they will get there. Maybe they will come up with some ideas, some questions that we can ask to find that entry point. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that it exists.
I'm glad it exists too. And we're glad that you all exist, that you listen to this show. And
yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. We also, if you like the sound of our voices, we co-host a show called Dorking Out, where we don't talk about vaccines at all. We just talk about movies that we're dorking out about. Currently, we have Slopshot out there, which is a hilarious movie streaming on Netflix. We had a great time talking about that.
Listen to the fucking song.
The Hanson Brothers. I'm always happy to have people learn about the Hanson Brothers from me. One of them liked one of my tweets, Sonia. That
shut up.
Right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. But what are we going to talk about next, Sonia?
We are going to talk about Big Business, starring Lily Tomlin and Bette Midler. People got very excited when Margot started sharing this on the channel, so I'm looking forward to it. I think it's streaming on Max right now.
Yes, I think you're right.
Or Disney.
No, it's Disney. It's Touchstone movie.
It's Disney. Sorry, it's on Disney. So looking forward to a nice comedy. Yay!
We could all use that right now. Some silly comedy from the 80s. All right.
Excited.
Well, if you have suggestions for creeps and non-creeps, please reach out to us at all the social media channels we mentioned before. We love it when you use the Annie Potts gift. We got one from Ghostbusters. But you could be clever and figure out something on your own, or just send us an email. Once again, that's whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like some stickers, please reach out. Those of you that are Patreon members, thank you so much. We will figure out the bonus eps thing.
We will.
June, July. Yes, we will. And we really appreciate all of you that support us. And Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram and the TikTok. Where can people find you, Margot?
You can find me on Twitter at Brooklyn Margot. I'm on Instagram, Brooklyn Fit Chick. My site is Brooklyn Fit Chick, and I'm on TikTok at Margot Donahue. All right, everybody. Stay safe. Be kind. Don't be a creep.
Be a creep.
Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.